So dungeons are a huge part of Skyblock, and everyone that's played the game for over a month should be doing them. They're a great money-making method, offer great rewards, and just a good way to kill some time if you have nothing else to do. In dungeons, a player can choose to play one of the 5 different classes: Healer, Mage, Berserk, Archer, and Tank. Each of the classes offer different abilities and require different setups and playstyles. So the question arises, what class should I pick and what should I get? Currently, there are 7 floors in the catacombs, each scaling in difficulty as well as rewards. So I thought, what floor, or floors, should I make a guide about? The obvious choice would be floor 7 since it's the highest floor and offers the most rewards. But there are already hundreds of guides on that, and the meta is pretty simple. Mage is OP if you have a lot of money. Archer is a bit less OP if you have a lot of money. Everything else is garbage and you shouldn't bother. So if you want a guide on floor 7, watch Hellcastle's video. I think he does a great job on that. So I decided to focus on some lower floors. And by lower, I mean, of course, floor 5 and floor 6. You know, the floors that actually matter and give a solid amount of catacombs and class experience. But the intro is already way too long, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Well, so first of all, what class should you main on floor 5 and floor 6? And you may ask, what are your exact qualifications for telling me what class I should play? Well, since you asked, I've actually played every class in Dungeons, and I know at least roughly how to play them and what's the best setup. And even if I don't, I can just ask one of my friends, since I know at least one of each class. That's about my level. So, how I'm going to do it is to tell you roughly how to play each class one by one, and then give you a brief guide on the setups. And then I tell you what class is the best in my opinion and what you should play. So without further ado, let's go through the classes one by one. So the first class is Tank, and well, I don't want to say it's bad, it's just not really helpful and doesn't do anything that useful to the team. Yes, tanks can tank a lot of hits and have a massive amount of defense and HP, and on the surface that sounds great. But in reality, if you have a decent setup and run these floors often, you shouldn't die anyway, especially if you're a Berserk, which we'll get into soon. So if you want to run Tank, because it's generally a pretty cheap class to run, you can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. So, what should you get for Tank? Well, for armor, you should get full Necromancer Lord armor, with a giant or perfect reforge, a livid dagger for lifesteal and damage, and maybe an earth shard. Just don't get the epic version, maybe get the legendary one or the mythic one. And reforge all your talismans for damage, since you already have enough EHP. As for the pet, get a legendary blue whale with a turtle helmet on it. So, if you're watching this, I'd like to tell you that I actually made a Discord server, and I put so much time and effort into making it and tuning it, so it would be amazing if you maybe consider joining, link in the description below and in the pinned comment. Also, if you do enjoy the video, maybe consider subscribing to my channel, as it will help me so much. Anyway, without any further self-promotion, let's go through the other classes. Now, the next class is Healer. And whether Healer is good or not highly depends on the level of the party you play with. If you play with a more beginner-like party, then yes, Healer can be very good at keeping your teammates alive. But gradually, as you start playing with more advanced parties, the need for the Healer kinda disappears. Since just like with Tank, your teammates will not need your help to stay alive and can sustain themselves. So if you play with a more beginner party, then yes, you can go right ahead and pick Healer. But otherwise, I would advise against it. There are also hybrids like Healer Mage or Healer Berserk. Those people play the Healer class but adopt a playstyle from another class. So if you want to be one, go right ahead and do it. But I suggest that you just go full Berserk if you want to go Healer Berserk and full Mage if you want to go Healer Mage. So what should you get for Healer? A Mender Fedora and 3/4 Necromancer Lord, Giant Reforge, maybe Necrotic if you want to play Healer Mage, and Ancient for Healer Berserk. Talismans reforged for damage or intelligence again, depends on how you want to play. For a pet, you should get a legendary blue whale with a dwarf turtle helmet. And now next up we have Archer, and Archer is just amazing for damage, but it's incredibly expensive and you'll be sacrificing a lot of EHP and lifesteal. Now let me show you just how expensive it is. Boomerangs are the best and only good bows for archers on later floors. You throw them and then wait for them to come back. However, to be able to infinitely spam them and be efficient with them, you'll need at least 4 or 5 boomerangs. The cheapest boomerang right now is 24 million on the auction house, and it's not even that good. So it won't deal that much damage. Let's say you get 4 of those cheapest boomerangs on the auction house. You'd still need to spend more than 90 million coins just on boomerangs, and add a livid dagger for lifesteal, a decent pet and armor, and you're well over 150 million coins. Also, boomerangs are considered bows, so they don't give you any lifesteal. And just to sum it up, Archer is good, really good, but only if you're rich enough to afford a good setup. What should you get for Archer? Full Shadow Assassin, or 3/4 if you're too poor to afford a chest plate. 4 to 5 boomerangs, 3 if you're too poor. Talismans reforged to damage. A skeleton pet if you're poor, a tiger if you have ferocity on your boomerangs, and a wither skeleton is also good for damage. A legendary blue whale if you have trouble staying alive. Berserk. Now, we all know Berserk. It's probably one of the most popular classes on lower floors, and pretty much everyone has played Berserk at least once. There are upsides and downsides to it. The upsides are that it's really cheap, and it's really easy to play. Now, downsides is that it sucks on floor 7. Absolutely, don't even try. So, if you don't plan to run floor 7 anytime soon, go. Also, Berserks can have pretty much infinite lifesteal with their Bloodlust ability, so you can stay alive in almost any situation. So yeah, if you're poor, you should definitely go Berserk. Now, what to get for Berserk? Again, Berserk is really simple. You just get full Shadow Assassin, or 3/4 if you're too poor, a Flower of Truth or a Livid Dagger, but Flower of Truth is better, Talismans reforged for damage, and a Baby Yeti pet. That's it. Now, last but not least, we have Mage. Now, we all know that Mage is OP on floor 7, if you have a Hyperion, that is. But this is on floor 7, and most of you won't be able to afford a Hyperion. Don't get me wrong, Mage is still really good, especially for room clearing. But just like boomerangs, magic damage does not give you any lifesteal, so staying alive in the boss room can be quite problematic. Now, what should you get for Mage? A pair of Shadow Goggles, 3/4 Necromancer Lord, you can swap in pieces of Storm if you're rich enough, a Spirit Scepter, a Midas Staff if you have a spare 100 million coins lying around. A Livid Dagger can be good for lifesteal, but it's not very necessary. You can easily go around without it. All your talismans should be reforged to intelligence, and you should get a sheep pet with a textbook, or a dwarf turtle shell. Again, whatever you want. And now, on to the verdict. So I suggest you either go Mage or Berserk. Berserk if you're poor, Mage if you're a little richer. Why Mage? Well, because we all know Mage is the best and most overpowered class for floor 7. So it will really help you if you could maybe get your Mage level up before you can afford a Hyperion, so that you can easily get into all the floor 7. And if you have a lot of money, you should go Archer. Again, Archer is also really good on floor 7, although not as good as Mage. You do not need to spend all your money on a Hyperion, and maybe save it up for something else. So yeah, that's it. Bye!